There comes a moment in every life where the mirror starts to reflect more than just your face. It begins to reveal your truth. And sometimes that truth is brutal. You look at yourself, not with admiration, but with quiet shame. Because deep inside, you've been carrying around a version of yourself that no longer fits the life you want. You're living like someone on autopilot, repeating patterns, avoiding risks, feeding fear, staying silent in the face of your own potential. Why? Because the old version of you is loud, familiar, comfortable. It promises ease and safety. But here's the truth you've been avoiding: the comfort zone is seductive. It's soft, familiar, predictable. It makes you feel like you're in control, like you're safe. But what you don't realize is that it's a cage, an invisible one lined with your habits, excuses, and fears. And the most dangerous part, it doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like home. That's how the trap works. It convinces you that growth is risky, that change is painful, and that staying the same is a form of wisdom. But what if the thing you're calling peace is really just emotional stagnation? What if that sense of calm you're clinging to is actually quiet desperation? We are biologically wired to avoid discomfort. The brain is constantly trying to conserve energy, to predict outcomes, to protect us from the unknown. But the unknown is exactly where your transformation lies. Growth never happens where you are. It happens just beyond it. Yet the moment you start moving in that direction, the mind fights back. It throws anxiety at you. It makes you question everything. It reminds you of your failures. Why? Because the comfort zone isn't just a space. It's a system designed to maintain your current identity. It's everything you've rehearsed, every emotional pattern you've normalized, every limitation you've agreed to believe. And here's the raw truth: nothing extraordinary ever happens in that space. No legacy was built inside a comfort zone. No great story was written about someone who played it safe. The life you want, the person you crave to become, lives on the other side of everything that's currently keeping you comfortable. Most people wait for a wake-up call. They wait for life to break them so badly that they're finally forced to change. But there is a different kind of power, one that doesn't wait for pain, but chooses discomfort voluntarily. That power is called self-awareness. That's when you look around and say, even though nothing is falling apart right now, I refuse to stay here. That's when you disrupt your own patterns before they harden into regret. People talk about wanting a better life, but they rarely acknowledge what that costs. It costs comfort. It costs your old routines. It costs familiarity. You will have to do things you've never done. You'll have to wake up earlier than you want, confront emotions you've buried, take risks that terrify you, and walk away from people who are comfortable in the version of you that you're trying to leave behind. The comfort zone breeds mediocrity because it trains you to seek relief, not results. It encourages numbing behaviors, mindless scrolling, procrastination, constant validation, because those things feel good in the short term. But every time you choose short-term comfort over long-term growth, you reinforce the idea that you're not capable of more. So ask yourself this: when you're on your deathbed, will you be proud of the fact that you stayed comfortable? That you never took the risk, never stepped outside, never chased the person you were meant to be? Or will you be haunted by what could have been? You must begin to treat the comfort zone as your enemy, not your friend. It's not protecting you, it's preventing you. The brain will tell you it's dangerous to grow, but the truth is it's dangerous not to. Staying the same might feel safe, but it's where dreams go to die. It's where your spirit slowly dims while your body moves through the motions of living. And here's what makes this battle even harder. No one else will force you out of that zone. No one is coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. You have to force your mind to tolerate discomfort. You have to develop the discipline to show up when you don't feel like it. You have to become so sick of your own patterns that you refuse to be that version of you any longer. Growth is not an accident, it's a decision. A brutal daily decision to walk away from ease, from the familiar, from the emotional patterns that defined you up until now. And the only way to win that war is to stop calling it your comfort zone and start calling it what it really is: the greatest threat to your potential. You want to outgrow the old version of yourself? Step into discomfort, chase it. Own it, because comfort won't lead you to greatness. Only courage will. You are not who you were 5 years ago. You are not even who you were 5 months ago. And that simple truth, if you embrace it, can set you free. But the problem is, most people don't embrace it. They cling to outdated versions of themselves like armor. They carry old labels, past mistakes, and limiting beliefs as if they're permanent tattoos etched into their identity. But identity is not a life sentence. It's a choice. A living, breathing choice you make every single day. The version of you that was built through trauma, through hardship, through survival, served a purpose. It got you through. It helped you cope. But that doesn't mean it deserves a place in your future. The quiet kid, the insecure one, the failure, the procrastinator, the one who never felt like enough. These are not facts. They are stories. And if you wrote them, you can rewrite them. The human brain is capable of extraordinary change. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to physically rewire itself in response to thought, behavior, and experience. That means you are never stuck. You are not fixed. You are not doomed to live out the same cycles unless you choose to. Change is not a matter of luck or circumstance. It's a matter of will and repetition. But here's the catch: the old identity doesn't die easily. It will fight for its life. It will try to convince you that change is fake, that transformation is impossible, that growth is only for other people. It will whisper things like, "This is just who I am," or "I've always been this way." And the more you repeat those phrases, the more you carve them into your mental wiring. You begin to reinforce the belief that you are static, limited, and powerless to evolve. You have to break that loop. You have to realize that who you are is not a prophecy, it's just a snapshot. A temporary state, captured in time, influenced by fear, environment, and repetition. And snapshots can be torn up, they can be replaced. The moment you decide that your identity is fluid, everything changes. You start making choices from the lens of who you want to become, not who you've always been. You stop saying, "I'm not disciplined," and start acting with discipline anyway. You stop hiding behind the excuse, "I'm not confident," and start showing up boldly, even if your voice shakes. Because transformation doesn't come from waiting until you feel like a new person. It comes from acting like one. You must behave your way into a new identity. Action precedes belief. If you want to become someone different, you have to start doing what that future version of you would do. Even when it feels unnatural, even when it feels fake, even when your old self screams for you to stop. That's the resistance you must overcome. That's the gap between who you are and who you could be. The people who change their lives in radical ways aren't superhuman. They're not lucky. They're just willing to be uncomfortable long enough to build something new. They stop identifying with the narrative of, "I'm broken, I'm not enough, I always fail." And they start asking better questions. What would the best version of me do in this moment? How would my future self handle this situation? What do I need to unlearn to move forward? You don't owe loyalty to a version of you that you've outgrown. You don't have to keep defending your past just because it feels familiar. Familiarity isn't the same as truth. Sometimes what feels safe is just what's known, and what's known is what's keeping you small. So stop waiting for someone to give you permission to evolve. Give it to yourself. Rewrite your story. Rebuild your habits. Rethink your thoughts. And most importantly, stop introducing yourself to the world as someone you no longer are. The old version of you is done. You don't need to carry them into every room, every relationship, every opportunity. Let that version rest. Let them go. You are not a static character in someone else's script. You are the author. And at any moment, you can flip the page and write something radically different. Not because it's easy, but because you finally realize it's possible. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your signal. It's your body, your mind, your nervous system all screaming at once. You are at the edge of your limits. And for most people, the instinct is to pull back, to numb it, to silence it. But if you truly want to grow, if you truly want to outgrow the version of you that's kept you stuck, you have to learn to lean into that pain, not avoid it. Because growth isn't silent. It's not gentle. It's loud, messy, and uncomfortable. And it's always preceded by resistance. The human brain is hardwired to protect you. Its job is to keep you safe, not successful. And safety, by design, means avoiding the unknown. It means minimizing risk, pain, and discomfort. But here's the paradox. The very things your brain tells you to run from are often the exact doors you need to walk through in order to transform. That tightness in your chest when you're about to speak up for yourself. That's growth. The fear you feel when you break an old habit or walk away from a toxic environment. That's growth. The exhaustion of holding yourself to a higher standard even when it feels easier to settle. That's growth. Growth begins when comfort ends. And pain is your compass. It tells you when you're breaking patterns, challenging beliefs, or stretching beyond your previous emotional and mental capacities. But the challenge is interpreting that pain correctly. Most people misread it. They think if it hurts, I must be doing something wrong. But that's not always true. Sometimes pain is the clearest indication that you're doing exactly what's right, because growth demands that you face every lie your old self believed about your worth, your strength, your potential, and replace it with truth. And that process hurts. It burns. There will be moments when you want to retreat, when the new habits feel exhausting, when the new boundaries feel isolating, when the new standards feel impossible to uphold. In those moments, the pain of growth will tempt you to run back to comfort. It will whisper to you that the old ways were easier, that change is too hard, that maybe you're not built for this after all. And if you listen to that voice, you'll shrink, you'll retreat into the shell of your old self, and every time you do, that shell gets harder to break. But if you can endure that discomfort, if you can breathe through it, push through it, and stay in the tension long enough, you'll begin to realize something powerful. You'll see that the pain didn't break you, it built you. It gave you new mental muscle, emotional resilience, and a new level of self-awareness that your old life could never give you. You'll stop seeing discomfort as a red flag and start seeing it as a green light. This isn't just about enduring pain for the sake of suffering. It's about learning to decode it, to use it, to let it guide you. Pain shows you where the work is, where you need to heal, where your limits truly are, and most importantly, where your future begins. Every powerful transformation story has a chapter that begins with pain. The pain of failure, the pain of betrayal, the pain of waking up and realizing you've wasted too much time living below your potential. But those moments are not dead ends, they're launch pads. They mark the start of the version of you that no longer runs from pressure but rises under it. You have to shift your relationship with pain. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid this?" start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because pain, when met with awareness, becomes data. It becomes feedback. It becomes the raw material of growth. So the next time you feel that resistance, when the alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., when you're tempted to quit on your discipline, when the people around you don't support your new path, remember this pain is not the problem. Your interpretation of it is. And if you can learn to see pain not as a punishment, but as a process, you'll stop fearing it. You'll start respecting it. Because in that pain, the old version of you is dying, and something stronger, sharper, and more focused is fighting to be born. You want growth? Then make peace with pain. Let it sharpen you, let it lead you. Let it break the shell of who you were so that who you're becoming can finally breathe. When you decide to change, when you decide to rise above who you used to be, the world around you won't just applaud. It will resist you. And the resistance won't always look obvious. It will come disguised as people who once called you family, friends who used to love your company, and environments that once felt like home. What no one tells you at the beginning of transformation is this: your old life will try to seduce you back. Not because it was better, but because it was familiar. And familiarity, even when it's toxic, feels safe. This is one of the hardest parts of growth that most people don't prepare for. You assume that once you make the decision to evolve, everything around you will support that path. But often, the opposite is true. The moment you change your language, your mindset, your routines, people will notice. And not all of them will be happy about it, because your growth is a mirror. It reflects their stagnation. And when people aren't ready to grow themselves, they'll try to shrink you back to size. Not always out of malice. Sometimes out of fear. Sometimes out of love. But it doesn't matter why. It only matters that you recognize it for what it is. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you distant, arrogant, or fake. They'll try to bring up your past, remind you of who you used to be, or guilt you for creating distance. But you have to understand this truth: when you elevate your standards, your energy shifts. And not everyone can breathe in your new atmosphere. Some people are addicted to your old wounds because they knew how to relate to you there. They knew how to keep you in a space that didn't challenge their own identity. The moment you break free from that, they feel abandoned. Not because you hurt them, but because you outgrew the version of yourself they felt safe with. This is why elevation often feels like isolation. Because as you move forward, the space behind you starts to stretch, and you can't take everyone with you. Not because you don't love them, but because they don't want to move. They want the old you. The one who tolerated less. The one who stayed quiet. The one who doubted themselves. That version of you was easy to understand, predictable, familiar. But you didn't come this far to be predictable. You're not doing this to stay in the same emotional cage. You're doing this to become someone the old version of you couldn't even imagine. And so you must be willing to feel the pull, the nostalgia, the guilt. the achy of leaving behind people and places that no longer fit. You must be willing to outgrow their approval, because transformation doesn't ask for permission. It demands conviction. There's nothing wrong with you for wanting more. There's nothing selfish about building a life that aligns with your purpose. The people who truly love you will adjust. They'll rise with you. They'll support your discipline, your silence, your standards, even if it challenges them. The ones who don't, let them go. That's not disloyalty. That's evolution. You also have to watch the patterns, not just the people. Old habits will whisper to you. Old behaviors will show up like ghosts. Procrastination, overthinking, numbing behaviors, impulsive decisions. They all come back like they're checking if the door is still open. You have to slam it shut. You have to remind yourself every single day why you started this journey. Because if you don't, comfort will talk you out of purpose. Your body will crave what's familiar, even when it's harmful. That's how powerful the pull of the past can be. Your old life knows exactly how to get you back. It knows your weak spots. It knows your triggers. It knows the exact kind of comfort that makes you forget how much you wanted change. So you have to become more aware, more intentional, more ruthless in protecting your progress. You're going to lose some things along the way, but don't confuse loss with failure. You're shading relationships, mindsets, environments that can't survive in the atmosphere you're building. That's not destruction, that's construction. That's how new levels are built, not by dragging everything from your past into your future, but by releasing what no longer belongs. You can't keep both. You can't keep your old life and build a new one. One of them has to die. And the one that dies should be the one that kept you small. Let your old life miss you. Let it wonder where you went. Because where you're going, not everyone can follow. And that's exactly the point. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's not about living a life without joy or forcing yourself into routines you hate. Discipline is a form of self-respect. It is the quiet, consistent decision to show up for yourself when no one else is watching. It is the daily choice to prioritize your long-term growth over your short-term cravings. Most people confuse discipline with punishment, but in reality, it's an act of deep internal love. When you hold yourself accountable, when you keep your word to yourself, you are telling your mind and your body, I matter. My future matters. You can't outgrow your old self while still indulging the behaviors that kept that version alive. Every time you hit snooze instead of getting up, every time you choose distraction over focus, every time you give in to the path of least resistance, you reinforce the idea that your comfort matters more than your calling. But the truth is, comfort will never build you. Comfort will only maintain you. If you want to become someone new, someone stronger, sharper, more capable, you have to act like it before you feel like it. That's what discipline is. It's action without emotion. It's showing up when you don't feel like it because you've committed to a vision that's bigger than your excuses. Discipline rewires your identity. It teaches your brain that you are the type of person who follows through. And once you start stacking small wins, waking up early, sticking to your goals, saying no when it's hard, you begin to see yourself differently. You're no longer just hoping to change, you're becoming the kind of person who changes things. That's power. And it doesn't come from motivation. It comes from structure, from commitment, from doing the work when it's boring, difficult, or lonely. The old version of you was built on impulse. This new version must be built on intention. You can't trust feelings to guide you. They're fleeting. But you can trust structure. You can trust standards. You can trust discipline to build the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Self-respect is not in how loudly you speak about your goals. It's in how quietly you grind for them when no one else is watching. And when you begin to respect yourself at that level, your life changes. Not because the world gives you more, but because you finally believe you deserve more. You cannot become a new version of yourself while staying in the same environment that built the old one. Your surroundings, physical, social, digital, act like mirrors. They reflect who you are and what you believe you're capable of. If you're constantly immersed in a space that tolerates mediocrity, negativity, laziness, or distraction, then no matter how strong your desire to grow is, that environment will pull you back down like gravity. The truth is, your environment isn't neutral. It either fuels your evolution or feeds your stagnation. Most people try to change their lives without ever changing their surroundings. They read books, listen to motivational content, even make big promises to themselves. But they stay in the same room, surrounded by the same voices, stuck in the same routines. And then they wonder why nothing changes. But how could it? You're trying to reprogram your mind while still plugged into the old system. Growth requires more than new thoughts. It requires new ground, new soil. Because you can't plant the seeds of transformation in the soil of comfort and expect anything powerful to grow. Your environment includes the people around you. If you're surrounded by those who doubt you, who mock your discipline, who drain your energy, or who encourage the habits you're trying to break, you're not just being held back. You're being programmed to stay the same. Energy is contagious. Mindsets are contagious. If you want to rise, be around people who push you higher, who challenge your limits, who don't let you settle for anything less than your potential. But it's not just people. Your digital environment matters too. What you watch, what you scroll, what you listen to, it all shapes your internal world. If your feed is filled with noise, drama, distractions, and comparisons, then your mind is constantly under attack. You need to curate your inputs like your life depends on it, because it does. Protect your focus. Protect your time. Fill your space with what lifts you, not what numbs you. Sometimes changing your environment will feel lonely. You'll have to walk away from people, habits, even entire lifestyles that once felt like home. But that's the cost of transformation. You can't build a new life in an old atmosphere. You have to create a space, mentally and physically, that supports the person you are becoming. Your environment should remind you daily of your standards, not tempt you to lower them. You don't just rise because of what's inside you. You rise because you've planted yourself in a place where growth is the only option. Transformation is not a gentle process. It's not a quiet shift or a soft unfolding. Real, lasting transformation is violent, not in the sense of aggression toward the world, but in the sense of what you must destroy within yourself. You cannot step into a new life until you are willing to bury the version of you that was built on fear, excuses, and survival. That old version will not walk away quietly. It will fight for space in your decisions, your thoughts, and your habits. And unless you kill it completely, it will sabotage everything you're trying to build. We all carry versions of ourselves that were shaped by pain, by the need to be accepted, by the fear of failure. These versions made us cautious. They taught us how to avoid rejection, how to settle, how to live without risk. And in some ways, they protected us. But what once protected you is now preventing you. You cannot carry that same mindset into a future that demands boldness, courage, and clarity. That version of you, the overthinker, the people pleaser, the one who always doubted their worth, has to die for something stronger to be born. There will come a moment when you realize that evolution isn't about addition. It's about subtraction. It's not just about what you gain, but what you're willing to let go of. And letting go is painful. You'll grieve the familiar behaviors, the emotional crutches, the people who only knew the weaker version of you. You'll feel like you're betraying your past, but you're not betraying it, you're transcending it. The old you was necessary for who you were, but not for who you're becoming. Transformation demands you cut ties with every belief that tells you to stay small. You must unlearn the patterns that taught you to be invisible, to be silent, to play it safe. You must silence the voice in your head that says, "Who do you think you are?" and replace it with, "I know exactly who I'm becoming." This kind of internal warfare doesn't happen once. It happens every day. Every morning you wake up and decide that today, the old you doesn't get a say. Today, you speak, act, move, and build as the version of you that's aligned with your vision, not your fear. And once you commit to that, once you decide that your transformation is non-negotiable, you'll start to see the world shift around you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you finally buried the version of yourself that was never meant to survive the life you were born to lead.